every age, there is a cause worth fighting for. But in the future, the greatest threat to our survival will not be man at all.
Hey, kid, what's going on? War! We're going to war!
Now the youth of tomorrow must travel across the stars to defend our world.
We are a generation commanded by fate to defend humankind.
Everyone fights, no one quits.
We are going in with first wave. You smash the entire area. You kill anything that has more than 2 legs. You get me? We get you, sir!
But they will face an enemy more devastating than any ever imagined.
Here they come!
Incoming!
Mayday, this is Roughneck 2.
We're under attack, sir. We need retrieval now.
Someone made a damn mistake.
The bugs laid a trap for us, didn't they?
TriStar Pictures takes you to the front lines of the next frontier.
Kill them all!
Starship Troopers.
Hello, welcome to Movie Umpers. My name is Bob Sham.
And I'm Angela.
And the sounds you hear may be dogs. And I think we're winding down on the COVID sessions.
Yes, feeling better today, even though I sound like this.
Well, yeah, we're coming back. We may have some residual funk, but I think we technically don't have it anymore. You know what rolls on? What is eternal? War. And this month, our theme, Glory and Propaganda, rolls on, and we're going to go deep into the future. To imagine a future if America, our imperial powers, conquered the entire planet. Now, we're focusing all our energies out onto distant solar systems. Bugs. These bugs, we're in conflict with them. They keep sending asteroids at us. Why? Why are they doing that? Well, because we tried to colonize.
They're on the defense.
Because we tried to colonize we violated their solar system, their planet, their space.
At one point, they send an asteroid out and they say, well, where did it come from? And it's something along the lines of the insect quarantine zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've decided where these species are allowed to be within the galaxy. But it's insane.
These bugs, they have to be the bad guys because they look like that. Right? We're talking about the movie Starship Troopers from 1997, directed by Paul Verhoeven, who we will be watching another movie of his by next month. Written by Edward Neumeier, based on the book by Robert A. Heinlein, and starring Casper Van Dien, Dina Meyer, Denise Richards, Neil Patrick Harris, and more. Also featuring some effects by Phil Tippett. You remember him? We talked about Mad God way early on.
Okay, yeah.
That was an all Phil Tippett joint. But he still was, even though CGI was everywhere, he was still getting some work in here and there. But yeah, we're talking about the movie Starship Troopers. Now, apparently, I haven't read the book by Heinlein, but apparently Heinlein, I know a lot of people read Stranger in a Strange Land.
Yeah, I did.
I feel like everyone I knew but me read it.
Yeah.
And everyone I know who has read it has felt compelled to sit down and explain the book to me. So I have had this book explained to me 100 fucking times in my life.
Well, I won't do it again.
It seems like I'm the only one I know who hasn't read this book.
Without describing the book, at the time I read it, it was very influential on me. It really questioned a lot of things that I was questioning in my late teens, early 20s, you know? And I think a lot of people of our generation were maybe in that same boat.
It is his biggest book. But Starship Troopers, that one is, as I understand it, what a lot of people misinterpret from this movie, the novel apparently does provide what people misinterpret from this movie. Paul Verhoeven, who has a history of satirizing imperial authoritarianism, with RoboCop and shit like that. He taps into this movie, and this movie is a satire of fascism, militarism. There are people out there that watch this movie and they don't realize that. The movie also has a love story tucked in the middle of it. It follows all these characters along. They fall in love. They have conflicts like anyone else. Then you start to pick up these little cues and it's like, wait a minute, this seems all destructive and crazy. And then we get these cutscenes to like these newsreels.
Young people from all over the globe are joining up to fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
They're doing their part. Are you? Join the mobile infantry and save the world. Service guarantees citizenship.
Which are definitely satirical. This came out in 1997. We were teenagers. A fairly popular movie.
Yeah, saw it in the theater.
To pass it around amongst my friends. But the thing I think we took the most from was the communal showers.
Yeah, I've already thought about that while we've been talking.
Because this movie, if you're a very like surface type liberal person, you may see like male female co-ed showers as like something progressive, right?
It seems equal. Like Diz is on the football team. They are all showering together. There is that like knee jerk, oh, it's better.
Oh yeah,
it's a better future.
Well, we're all equal in the meat show for Earth imperialism.
Well, yeah, one of the things I didn't pick up on when we were younger, I just didn't question, is the fact that these folks who just look like all American kids are from Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
Just speaks to you talking about how the whole world is like united, I guess, under the same rule, right?
The Federation,
So then it's like, well, we're not fighting amongst ourselves on Earth anymore, so who's our enemy now? Now we have to have someone else. You can't just be peaceful.
Bugs.
You can't just be happy. There has to be an enemy, a conflict, something to pull you all together. And they have this concept of the citizen who's willing to die for their country and their people. Like, if you need to be a citizen in order to vote, you need to be a citizen it makes it easier to get a license to have kids, which you have to have license to have kids.
It implies that through the military, you can access social values that might not be available to you otherwise. And you need a license to have a child. And it's glazed right through, right? And I haven't read the book. I probably never will. I mean, just knowing anything about Paul Verhoeven and what he's provided. And Paul Verhoeven is this guy he made RoboCop, right? It's a satire of authoritarian police state. And he made that movie in a time where there were a lot of reactionary Reagan era action movies that are right-wing kind of movies, right?
Yeah.
Or at least like Rambo was a little, when it first came out, First Blood, it was like about PTSD. And then that series keeps going, and it is exactly what your dad wanted the movie to be, right?
Sure.
And RoboCop kind of pops in there, and if you're not that media savvy, not that clever, it will go like right by you. And I think Starship Troopers is no different. Apparently this movie was not a big critical hit when it came out. I think the overall tone of it was very confusing for people. Some people interpret it as a literal promotion of fascism, and other critics understood that it was a bit of a satire, but felt like the humor and the tone was a little not balanced well. But it also became a cult movie in hindsight. Like, it cost $110 million and made $121 million. That's not enough to really inspire the studio, but the cult success of it was enough for it to inspire a lot of low budget sequels. Which I have no idea if they're as clever as this movie. I'll never watch those. When we watched it when we were younger, I think the thing that maybe clued us in when we were kids watching this movie, teenagers, near the end, Neil Patrick Harris, this is like the first time we've seen him since Doogie Howser. He used to be, I know he's a stage star now, sitcom star, but he used to be on this show called Doogie Howser, where he was a kid who was a doctor. And this was the first thing we had seen of him since that show. So we were like, oh, it's Doogie Howser.
And he still looks like a baby.
He's very young still in this movie. Near the end, when he's fully immersed in his psychic ops division.
He's in like the intelligence.
And there's the picture above your head. We see him walk up, and I remember we were like, he looks like a Nazi.
Yeah.
And that was a clue to us when we were younger that maybe there was something a little beyond the surface of what we were seeing in this movie.
Absolutely. Well, they talk about they're doing all these experiments and these tests, and they want to get the big brain bug so that they can learn from it and do tests on it. It's really gross when you think about even some of the language that they use, like how much it really is just like fucking Nazi testing and this exceptionalism.
Yeah.
Right? Like we are
Absolutely.
the only ones we as in the human race are the only ones who are of value and everything else is just in our way.
Yeah. Did I say who starred in this movie?
Yes.
Casper Van Dien, who plays Rico. And Rico.
Casper Van Dien. Wasn't this like his first thing too?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen this guy in much anything else. I mean, not that I know of. Jake Busey and his teeth are in this movie.
Jake Busey.
And Denise Richards, who was a model. This is one of her bigger movies. Do you remember Dina Myers as Dizzy Flores? She was in Johnny Mnemonic.
Yeah.
And I always think of her having the seizure in that, where she's acting that. Johnny.
She kind of fell off too. Like this was kind of her pop also. Johnny Mnemonic and this were like kind of back to back.
Johnny Rico, his character has these annoying liberal parents who don't want him to join the military. They want him to go to Harvard. And what happens to liberals? They get plasmid from space and their whole city destroyed. Buenos Aires is wiped off the face of the map.
Apparently, in the book, his name is Juan Rico.
Okay.
And they call him Johnny, but his name is actually Juan.
They might actually be Latino in the book, right?
They might actually be. I haven't read it either, but I noticed that when I was looking at like the Wikipedia.
I mean, a lot of Argentinians look pretty white. I mean,
Sure.
there are white South Americans.
Totally. They don't look like Doogie Howser though.
Did you know that in Brazil, there's a lot of people that are descendant of Confederate soldiers? Because a lot of Confederate soldiers, when the South surrendered, a lot of them left the country and decided to go somewhere where a lot of brown people were for some reason. But yes, they have like...
I had no idea.
In Brazil, they have this big celebration. And yeah, it's like Confederate heritage, like celebrations and shit. And a lot of Nazis fled.
Jeez.
But yes, it's Rico. He joins... He's in love with Carmen Ibanez, who's going to be a pilot. They're together. Look, it's like a teenage like love story in the middle of all of this. And that in and of itself almost seems like a bit of a joke.
You forget how young they're supposed to be because the only one who looks appropriately 18 years old is Doogie Howser. The other ones look like they're in their mid-20s, right? There's a lot of he's in love with her, he joins for her. And then it's almost this, it's not really coming of age, but it's like coming into your own. So maybe it is, but he's got to figure out why he's actually there because she breaks up with him pretty quickly.
Funny how they always want to be friends after they rip your guts out.
Yeah. That's what I deserve.
What are you talking about?
I joined up for her. I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for her.
What are you talking about? You made squad leader on your own. Hey, still got me to kick around.
Because she's going to go career as a pilot. And I don't know how he thought they were ever going to be together anyway. It's just that he thought it would impress her if he also joined and became a citizen. That was his only chance to be with her.
It is like high school lovers going to different colleges and them telling themselves that this is going to work out while their parents are like, yeah, whatever, okay.
Right. And then the first time that you get the phone call.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, listen.
Yeah.
I think it's best for both of us.
Oh, turns out there's hot people over at this school and I'm very young.
He's joined up for her. Diz is this gorgeous girl who is in love with him. And she doesn't join for him. I believe she would have joined no matter what, but she transfers to his unit to be near
She's
him.
Straight kind of stalking him, right?
She is. She straight up is. You know, it quickly becomes obvious that
she's kind of crazy.
She's crazy, but she's also good. Like she's very talented.
Crazy good pussy.
I mean, eventually they do get it on.
So yeah, they go out to where they don't belong. in the bug quarantine zone. And of course, the bugs are fighting back, so that just gives them all the reason to just go fucking
These
hard.
bugs are fucking smart. These bugs are laying traps for them. They're like, get the fuck off of our planet, yo.
That's another clue as to their own imperial hubris, right?
Oh, yeah, they think they're smarter.
Is that they think the bugs are stupid. Even as they're somehow able to send asteroids directly to their planet across the galaxy. And that's what destroys Buenos Aires. These bugs have the ability to target across a galaxy, and they're still like, these bugs are stupid as shit. Like, as far as we know, I mean, the humans have to travel there to do their shit, but they don't seem to have the ability to shoot you from Earth itself across a galaxy, yet the bugs seem to have this ability to do that. And yet, it's like, oh, these bugs are dumb.
They have to kill hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people before the people realize, oh, they can think. They really act as though the idea of these brain bugs, quote unquote, which they call them, which we do see at the end, which I think is the practical bit, which is amazing.
When you get up close,
why does
it looks like a hurt pussy.
Why does that's where I'm going, evil monster from space look like some kind of weird infected vagina?
Yeah, it looks like they get up close on the brain bug face, and it looks like it looks like something from Pornhub, we'll say that.
There is still something wrong, subconscious in our society, that when you think, like, what is the scariest, grossest thing I can think of? And then it ends up looking like a vagina again and again and again.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, you thought it looked gross. I was like,
No,
I think it's just a matter of, I think it's just a matter of perspective.
I don't think vaginas are gross. I'm just saying they're obviously trying to make something scary and intimidating and otherworldly.
It looks like it got cream pie.
And then in this one, I actually thought of that movie Border, because its little vagina has like a thing that comes out of it and then like attacks.
Oh, right before it sucks the brains out of that one dude who's trying to hook up with Denise Richards' character. He says,
one day, someone like me is gonna kill you and your whole fucking race.
and I still see that there are people arguing that this isn't the case with this movie. Even though everyone involved in making this movie will tell you that.
I've read a couple of his books. I think that he is satirizing. He is questioning. He's just not as funny about it or as like blatant about it. So you could read it and think that's what he thinks, but you have to kind of look under. But I don't know.
Well, you know, not being religious doesn't mean you're not right-wing.
No, I'm not saying that,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that he wrote this book as a yay go military, this is how we should be, doesn't make sense in my mind with what I have read of his stuff.
I mean, I've seen this.
I'm not defending because I haven't read it.
I haven't read the book either. I kind of see, you know, there's certain movies that aren't straight up trying to be heavy-handed about what it's trying to say to you. And I know this particular book and movie, I see it parsed through on social media between
we're not the first to have this
political
debate.
ideologies, people that argue both.
Mm-hmm.
I think the movie aspect is inarguable. This is
Yes.
an absolute satirization of fascism and militarism.
Absolutely.
The people that we follow the whole time are, you know, they're all humans just like us, and they look like us, so sometimes that's hard to read, but it is like we are following the Nazis.
Yeah.
But I have seen people debate over the book itself, and I have seen people who claim to be right-wing say, I love the book, I hate the movie, because they realize the movie is satirizing imperialism.
Yes, but it's just like what we were talking about earlier, where someone who wants to see that, there's enough there to latch on to.
Yeah.
It's like the folks who thought Stephen Colbert was serious.
Sure.
You know?
But that's how you know they're reactionary nitwicks.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm saying I believe there is another layer to his writing based on the other things I have read of his. But I don't know without reading the story. I'm just saying I think there is a debate still to be had. I don't think it's he was writing a militaristic novel that this guy turned on its head and made into something else. One led into the other, and the other was much more obvious.
Yeah.
And good that it's much more obvious because it leaves less room for that
Well,
argument.
it's not so obvious. Like, it literally seems to be a trait of reactionary right-wing idiots that they don't know if something isn't straight up saying Nazis are bad, that they don't realize that it's making fun of their ideology.
There was at one point a fucking billboard down the road from our house that was a religious thing trying to talk about like taking care of kids that fucking quoted Nazi propaganda. They didn't know where that quote came from because they're fucking idiots. They just see a line that says, oh, this sounds like what I want to do.
One of my favorite ones I see, and I've seen people get baited by it so much, where it's an image of Ronald Reagan and then a quote of how, arms should be distributed, something like that. I don't know the exact quote, but it's a Karl Marx quote. And they slap it on a Ronald Reagan image, just sharing that on social media over and over. In Starship Troopers, these are the ideologies that dominate not only this planet, but an entire solar system.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about effects in this movie, special effects. For 1997, this is a lot of CGI as well. Everything seems so bright, especially when you get into other planets. I think it looks pretty damn good for its time. I mean, we're a few years past Jurassic Park. That movie still looks great, right?
Sure, yeah.
Also, Phil Tippett, who did the up close, the Triceratops on the ground. Remember when he was breathing? But also Phil Tippett, working on that movie, realized that his career was probably doomed in terms of his contribution to special effects.
Yeah.
And it's great he got work in this movie, but it is also like his practical effects alongside a lot of CGI. But it doesn't look bad. And I think just taking place in the future and being on another planet and the way it all looks, like the creative execution of it all.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie, at the very least, on its surface. It's a fun movie to take in, and also intensely violent, not unusual for a Paul Verhoeven movie. We're seeing these troopers get fucking stabbed, dismembered, ripped in half. Our main guy gets one right in the leg, and he gets healed up. We see the machines, like the Star Wars back-to tank, like piecing him back together. Yeah, and near the end, they do finally destroy a hive of brain bug. They escape, and then another unit, one that used to be his boot camp sergeant, who knocked himself down to private so he could go and, because he was so excited to just go kill bugs. They drag a brain bug out, and Neil Patrick Harris comes around with his psychic division. They're all dressed like Nazis, and they're touching
this is so fucked up.
and they're touching the bugs.
He can read the mind of animals.
And they're like, well, what is it thinking?
It's afraid.
It's afraid!
And they all fucking
It's afraid.
cheer.
And they all cheer. And so this thing is now in a lab being experimented on.
And they
This is
show
a-
clips of it being like stabbed.
This is a sentient creature that knows fear, and everyone's just like cheering because they have conquered the bugs. They use these nukes all the time, these tactical nukes that just wipe everything out, and they're just destroying entire planets
Yeah.
in this bug quarantine zone. Like, what are they? they never talk about any resources that they pull from these areas. As far as we know, I mean, maybe the book goes in further depth. As far as we know, they're just over here fucking up bugs to fuck up bugs. But usually that has to come with some kind of desire to obtain some kind of resource,
They
right?
make a very small comment early on about how they were wanting to, I believe they want to send like colonies to some of these places.
Right.
And that there was this group of Mormons that went without approval and set up a colony, and they were all slaughtered.
One of my things is I'm objectively fascinated with Mormons. I'm not one. And there's a sci-fi series.
I'm not one either.
There's a sci-fi series I'm reading that has like Mormon ships and shit. I actually love it when we get into far future sci-fi and there are Mormons like in space and shit. Like that's kind of what their deal is. They're kind of into that shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so it provides some level of accuracy towards their ideology that they would try to get in on like interstellar flight once that becomes available. So I just kind of love
Why
those.
wait until you're dead to get your own planet?
You can go to Collab directly. You don't have to die to get to Collab. We'll fly to Collab right now and have like a carrot salad or whatever the fuck they like to eat.
Yeah.
They eat like a carrot and raisin salad. Can you grow carrots on Collab? Anyway, Starship Troopers. There's really not much to it.
No.
And there's no reason for us to, and this is a cult hit. A lot of people, especially in our age group, have seen this movie, and it's become a movie that is more appreciated in hindsight. I think at the time, people were very back and forth on what this movie meant. I think people did see the fascist overtones, but I think people were split on whether it was promoting it or trashing it. As long as you see the fascism, I can't blame you if you thought it was promoting it, you know? But I don't think it is. I don't.
No.
But this is probably truly our most propaganda of the movies, but it's knowing propaganda, right? This is our one selection where we are in the deep future. We won. You won. Imperialism won. And now we're going to fuck these bugs up. All right? Goodbye, Buenos Aires. Now I feel more curious about the book.
Yeah.
Maybe you should read it and just tell me about it.
Maybe I will.
I don't want to break my streak of not reading Robert Heinlein books.
Okay. I can take that one for the team.
Starship Troopers from 1997, directed by Paul Verhoeven. We're going to give this 1 through 5 each combined for a best out of 10. Angela, what do you give Starship Troopers?
A 4.25.
Oh, okay.
I know that's pretty high, but I think it's really fun, and I think it's very well done.
Yeah, I think it is kind of underrated based on initial reactions, but I'm going to give it a 3.75.
Fair.
And that's a good score.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be a 4 to be a good score.
Not at all. The Paul Tippett. Is it Paul Tippett?
Phil Tippett.
We called him Paul the whole time we did that episode.
And someone commented like, "Who is Paul Tippett?" I felt so bad. We were just starting.
I think Phil Tippett for me gives it an extra 0.25.
You just like that
if he's involved.
That cream pie bug mouth.
I like practical effects, and that even though there was so much digital done, they were keeping that alive in this.
All right, folks, take a look at it. Starship Troopers from Paul Verhoeven from 1997. At an 8, gets a very good score. It rests between Sergeant York and The Old Dark House. So check the show notes for links to other places to find us. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Have you read the Starship Trooper book? Have you seen the movie and watched the book? What'd you think of it?
You watched that book?
But tell me about the book. We don't know about the book. Is the book also satirizing, or is it much more promoting? You let us know. Anyway, let's get the fuck out of here. Those goddamn bugs, right?
Let's hear it for the bugs.